The day everything broke Thanksgiving had always been my favorite lie. That's what I called it, at least in my head, the lie of perfection. The polished table, the golden turkey, the laughter that lingered just a second too long, like everyone was trying to convince themselves it was real. And me, Emily Carter, standing in the middle of it all, smiling like nothing in my life was quietly falling apart. By 3 p.m., the house already smelled like rosemary, butter, and something slightly burnt because my sister Rachel never paid attention to the oven. Can you check the stuffing? She called from the living room, where she was laughing too loudly at something my husband had said. My husband! I paused for a second at the kitchen counter, my hands resting on the edge. Daniel. Even thinking his name felt heavier than it used to. I've got it, I called back, forcing brightness into my voice. I opened the oven, letting the heat hit my face. It was easier to focus on that than on the sound of Rachel's laugh, carrying through the house. She had always laughed like that full, effortless, magnetic. People leaned toward her without realizing it, even Daniel. Smells amazing in here, Daniel said, appearing behind me. I didn't turn around right away. Give it another 10 minutes, I said, checking the tray. It's almost done. He leaned against the counter, close enough that I could feel his presence, but not close enough to touch. We used to touch all the time. Small things. Casual things. A hand on my waist. A brush of fingers. Now, there was always this space. You okay? He asked. The question was routine. Automatic. Like saying, bless you, after a sneeze. Yeah, I said. Another lie. When I finally turned, he gave me that same soft smile he'd always had. The one that used to make me feel safe. Now it just made me wonder. Everyone's here, he said. Your mom's asking where you are. I'll be out in a minute. He nodded and left the kitchen. And just like that, the warmth disappeared. I stared down at the counter, my reflection faint in the polished surface. There had been signs. Of course there had been signs. There are always signs. You just don't see them when you don't want to. It started small, late nights at work, phone calls he took outside, a new passcode on his phone. I told myself I was being paranoid, that marriage changes, that people get busy, that love doesn't always look the same after 7 years, but love doesn't usually feel like distance either. Emily? My mother's voice called. I closed the oven and wiped my hands on a towel. Coming. The dining room looked like something out of a magazine. The long wooden table was covered in autumn colors, deep reds, oranges, golds. Candles flickered gently, reflecting in the glasses. Everything looked perfect, too perfect. Rachel was already seated, her blonde hair falling effortlessly over her shoulders, her smile bright as she scrolled through her phone. Daniel sat across from her. They weren't talking, but something about the way they didn't talk felt off. Like silence between them wasn't empty. You finally made it, Rachel teased as I took my seat. Someone had to make sure dinner didn't burn, I replied. She grinned. Please, I would have saved it. Like last year. I raised an eyebrow. She laughed. Okay, fair. Everyone settled in. My parents, Rachel, Daniel, my younger brother Jake, who was already reaching for the mashed potatoes before anyone said grace. Wait, my mom said. Let's say grace first. We all bowed our heads. Thank you for bringing us together, she began. For family, for love, for... Her voice faded into the background, because across the table, I saw it. Daniel's phone lit up just for a second. But long enough, a message preview. One line. Missed you already. My stomach dropped. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. And then, the name, Rachel. For a second, my brain refused to process it. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. Rachel, my sister? I looked up slowly. Rachel was still smiling, still sitting there like everything was normal. Daniel shifted slightly, flipping his phone face down. Too quickly. Too casually. My heart started pounding, loud enough that I was sure someone would hear it. Maybe it was old. Maybe it meant something else. Maybe it meant something else. Maybe, no? I knew. Because suddenly, every late night, every quiet moment, every glance I didn't understand, it all clicked into place. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Emily? My mom said gently. Do you want to say something? Everyone looked at me. I opened my mouth, closed it. I could feel it, the moment. The breaking point. I could stay quiet. Finish dinner. Pretend. Deal with it later. Or I could say it, right here, right now, in front of everyone. My eyes moved between them, Rachel, Daniel. They didn't look at each other, but they didn't have to. That was enough. I felt something inside me snap. Not loudly, not dramatically, just final. I sat up straighter. My voice came out calm. Too calm. Before we eat, I said, I think we should talk about something. Daniel froze. Rachel's smile faltered, just slightly. What is it, honey? My mom asked. I looked directly at my sister. Rachel, I said, do you want to tell them or should I? The room went silent. Rachel blinked. What are you talking about? I let out a small breath, almost a laugh. Your message, I said, to my husband. Daniel's chair creaked as he shifted. Emily, he started. Don't, I cut him off. My voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. I looked back at Rachel. You miss him already? I asked quietly. Her face went pale. And just like that, Thanksgiving was over. Not the dinner, not the evening, the illusion. The table that split us apart, no one moved. Not right away. It was like the entire room had been frozen mid-breath, suspended between what was just said and what it meant. My mother's hand was still clasped in prayer. My father's head was slightly bowed. Jake had a spoon halfway to his mouth, and Rachel looked like someone had just pulled the ground out from under her. Emily, she said slowly, her voice thinner than I had ever heard it. I held her gaze. Go ahead, I said. Explain it. Daniel pushed his chair back slightly. This isn't the time, I turned to him. No? I asked calmly. When is the time, Daniel? After dessert? My father looked up, confusion turning quickly into concern. What is going on? No one answered him. Because now it was real. Rachel let out a shaky breath. You're misunderstanding, she said quickly. It's not. Not what? I asked. She hesitated. That was all it took. Because when someone is innocent, they don't hesitate. They don't search for the right version of the truth. They just tell it. Daniel stood up now. Emily, can we talk about this privately? I laughed. Actually laughed. It surprised even me. Privately? I repeated. You mean like the two of you have been doing? My mother gasped softly. My father's face darkened. Daniel, he said sharply, what is she talking about? Daniel didn't answer. He looked at Rachel, and in that one glance, everything became undeniable. I saw it, the guilt, the fear, and something worse, connection. Oh my God, my mother whispered. Rachel shook her head quickly. No, it's not like that, I swear. Then what is it like? I asked, my voice still eerily steady. She looked at me then, really looked, and for a split second, I saw my sister, not the person sitting across from me, but the girl I grew up with, the one who used to hold my hand when we crossed the street, the one who cried when I left for college. Then she said the one thing that shattered whatever was left. I didn't mean for it to happen. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. My chest tightened. Not because I was shocked, but because hearing it out loud made it permanent. How long? I asked. She didn't answer. How long? I repeated. Daniel spoke this time. Emily. I slammed my hand lightly on the table. Don't. He stopped. Rachel swallowed. A few months. A few months. I nodded slowly, like I was processing a piece of information that didn't belong to me. A few months, I repeated, while sitting at this table, while coming to this house, while calling me your sister. Emily, please, she started. Did you ever think about me? I asked. That stopped her. Even once? I continued. Did you ever stop and think, maybe I shouldn't sleep with my sister's husband? Emily, my mother cried, but I didn't look away, not from Rachel. Tears filled her eyes. I hate myself for it, she whispered. I shook my head. No, I said quietly. You just hate getting caught. Daniel stepped forward. That's not fair. I turned on him. You don't get to tell me what's fair. My voice cracked for the first time, just slightly, but enough. 7 years, Daniel, I said. 7 years, and this is how it ends? It's not ending, he said quickly. I stared at him, and for the first time, I saw him clearly. You think this doesn't end it? I asked. He hesitated. And that hesitation, that uncertainty, hurt more than anything else. My father stood up now. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. Both of you, he said, his voice low and controlled, need to explain yourselves. No one spoke. Because what explanation could possibly make this better? Jake finally broke the silence. You slept with her husband? He asked Rachel, his voice somewhere between disbelief and anger. Rachel covered her face with her hands. I didn't plan it, she said through tears. That doesn't matter, I said, because it didn't. Affairs don't need planning. They just need opportunity and a willingness to cross a line. When? My mother asked, her voice trembling. Rachel shook her head. I don't remember the exact. Was it before my birthday? I asked suddenly. She froze. That was answer enough. I let out a slow breath. That night, I said quietly, when you said you couldn't make it because you were sick? Rachel didn't respond. And you? I turned to Daniel. You said you had a late meeting. His eyes dropped. The pieces fell into place, perfectly, painfully. I spent that night alone, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it filled the room. I ordered takeout, watched a movie, told myself it was okay because life gets busy. My chest tightened. You were together, weren't you? No one answered. They didn't need to. My mother started crying softly. My father looked like he might say something but didn't. Jake just stared at Rachel like he didn't recognize her. And me. I felt strangely calm, because the worst part had already happened. The truth was out. There was nothing left to protect. I think you should leave, I said. Rachel looked up. What? I didn't raise my voice. I think you should leave, I repeated. Emily, please, she said, standing up now. We can fix this. I shook my head. No, we can't. I turned to Daniel. You too. His face fell. Emily, get out. The room felt smaller again. Tighter. This is my family's home, I continued. You don't get to sit at this table like nothing happened. He looked like he wanted to argue, to explain, to say something that would undo all of this, but there was nothing left. Slowly, reluctantly, he reached for his coat. Rachel stood frozen for a moment longer. Then she grabbed her bag. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't respond. Because sorry wasn't enough. It would never be enough. They walked to the door together. Not touching, but not separate either. And somehow, that hurt more than anything else. The door closed, and just like that, the room felt emptier than it ever had. My mother sobbed quietly. My father sat down heavily. Jake muttered something under his breath and walked out. And I stood there, in the middle of the table, surrounded by untouched food. The turkey, the stuffing, the perfect plates. All of it still there, but nothing felt whole anymore, because in one moment, one sentence, everything I thought I had was gone. And the worst part, I didn't even cry. Not yet, because some pain is too big to feel all at once. After the ruin, I didn't cry that night. Not when the door closed behind them. Not when my mother tried to hug me and I gently pulled away. Not even when I went upstairs and saw our bedroom. The bed still neatly made, the lamp still on from the night before. Everything exactly as it had been when I still believed my life was intact. I sat on the edge of the bed and just stared. At nothing. At everything. It's strange what your mind does when something breaks that deeply. It doesn't shatter all at once. It fractures quietly. I remember picking up one of Daniel's shirts from the chair, holding it like it might still mean something. Then I dropped it. Because it didn't. Not anymore. The crying came the next morning. Not softly. Not gracefully. It came like a storm. I was brushing my teeth when it hit me. Just standing there, staring at my reflection. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. I gripped the sink as tears poured down, uncontrollable, ugly, real. Because it wasn't just about the affair. It was everything attached to it. The years, the memories, the plans we made, the future I thought I had. All of it felt like it had been quietly rewritten without me. And the worst part? It wasn't just him. It was her. My sister. That thought alone felt like something tearing through me over and over again. I stayed at my parents' house for 3 days. 3 days of silence, tension, and conversations that never quite finished. My mother hovered, trying to help, trying not to say the wrong thing. My father avoided the subject completely, which somehow said everything. Jake was the only one who spoke plainly. "She's dead to me," he said one night at dinner. "Jake," my mother warned. "No," he continued. "What she did there is no excuse for that." I didn't respond, because anger was easier for him, cleaner. For me, it was complicated, because no matter what she had done, she was still my sister. And that made everything hurt more. On the 4th day, I went back home, alone. The house felt different now. Not just quiet, but hollow, like it had been emptied out emotionally, even though everything was still physically there. His shoes by the door, his jacket on the hook, his coffee mug in the sink. I walked through each room slowly, like I was visiting a place I used to live in. I didn't rush to pack his things. I didn't throw anything away. I just let it exist, because I wasn't ready to decide anything yet. That afternoon, my phone rang. "Daniel." I stared at the screen for a long time, then I answered. "Hello." His voice came through carefully. "Emily." A pause. "How are you?" he asked. I almost laughed. "How do you think I am?" He exhaled slowly. "I know I don't deserve to ask that." "No," I said. "You don't." Silence. "I'm sorry," he said. There it was, the word that always comes too late. "I know that doesn't fix anything," he added. "No," I repeated. Another pause. "I didn't plan for this," he said. "It just happened." I closed my eyes. "Stop saying that," I said quietly. "What? Like that makes it better." "It's the truth," he insisted. "No," I replied. "The truth is, you made a choice, over and over again." He didn't argue, because he couldn't. "I never stopped loving you," he said after a moment. That hit something deep, painful, sharp. "Then why did you do it?" I asked. There it was, the question that never has a satisfying answer. "I don't know," he admitted. I almost appreciated the honesty. Almost. "Was it her?" I asked. "Or was it just not me?" He hesitated, and that hesitation, that fraction of a second, told me more than any words could. "It wasn't about replacing you," he said finally. I let out a slow breath. "That's not an answer." "I made a mistake," he said. "No," I corrected. "You made a series of decisions." Silence. Then, softer, "Are you with her now?" "No," he said quickly. "No, I haven't seen her since that night." I believed him. I wasn't sure why, but I did. "She's called," he added. I didn't answer. That surprised me. "Why?" "Because I ruined enough already," he said. I didn't respond. Because part of me didn't care. And another part, a smaller, quieter part, did. "I want to fix this," he said. I laughed, not kindly. "You can't fix this." "Maybe not," he admitted, "but I don't want to lose you." I walked to the window, looking out at the street, at normal life continuing like nothing had happened. "You already did," I said. The words felt final, but not complete. "Is there anything I can do?" he asked. I thought about that. Really thought about it. What could he possibly do? Undo it? Erase it? Make me unknow what I knew? "No," I said finally. Another silence. "Then I'm moving out," he said. That caught me off guard. "You don't have to." "I do." He interrupted gently. "You need space. And I need to face what I did." I leaned my forehead against the glass. "Okay," I said. It felt strange. Agreeing. Letting him go. But maybe that was the only thing left to do. "I'll come by tomorrow," he added. "Pack some things." "All right." A pause. "I'm really sorry, Emily." I closed my eyes. "I know," I said. And for the first time, I actually believed he meant it, but meaning it didn't change anything. The next day he came. We didn't hug. We didn't touch. We just moved around each other like two people who used to know each other well. "I'll take the essentials for now," he said. I nodded. Watching him pack was surreal. Folding his clothes, putting them into a suitcase. It felt like watching a life being dismantled in slow motion. "Do you need anything?" he asked at one point. I shook my head. No, because what I needed, he couldn't give me. When he finished, he stood by the door. Just like Rachel had, just like he had that night. "I'll give you time," he said. I nodded. "Take care of yourself," he added. "You too." And then he left. Again. The door closed. And this time, it didn't feel like shock. It felt like the beginning of something else. Not healing. Not yet. But clarity. Because now, there were no more lies. No more pretending. Just truth. And the question that followed it: what do I do with what's left? A week later, I got a message from Rachel. "I know you hate me, but please, let me explain." I stared at the screen. My finger hovered over the reply for a long time, because this might be harder than facing Daniel, because he was my husband. But she was my blood, and some wounds run deeper than betrayal. They run through identity, through history, through everything you thought could never break. I put my phone down. Not ready. Not yet. But I knew, eventually, I would have to face her too, because the story wasn't over, not even close. What remains after the fire? I didn't answer Rachel right away. Not that day. Not the next. Not even the day after that. Her message sat there on my phone like an open wound, unread but felt. "I know you hate me. But please, let me explain." Hate. It would have been easier if that's all I felt. Hate is clean. Sharp. Simple. What I felt was not simple. It was grief, anger, confusion, and something far more painful, a lingering thread of love I couldn't cut as easily as I wanted to. 2 weeks passed before I finally replied, not because I was ready, but because I realized something important. Avoiding her wasn't healing me, it was just delaying the inevitable. So, I typed, "Come by tomorrow, 3 p.m. No warmth, no softness, just a door, barely open. She replied almost instantly, "Thank you." I stared at that word for a long time. Thank you. As if sitting across from the person you broke was a privilege. The next day, I cleaned the house, not because it needed it, but because I needed something to do with my hands. By 2057 p.m., I was sitting on the couch, staring at the door. At exactly 3, she knocked. Of course she did. Rachel was always on time. Even now, I opened the door. For a second, neither of us spoke. She looked different. Not physically. She was still the same Rachel everyone noticed when she walked into a room. But something in her expression had changed. Less confidence. More weight. "Hi," she said softly. I stepped aside. "Come in?" She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. We sat across from each other, same room. Same space, different world. "I don't know where to start," she said. "Try the truth," I replied. She nodded. "I didn't plan it," she began. I exhaled sharply. "If you say that one more time, no," she said quickly. "I mean, I didn't go into it wanting to hurt you. That doesn't make it better." "I know," she whispered. Silence. She looked down at her hands. "It started after that dinner at your place," she said. "A few months ago. We were talking. Just talking. I remembered that night. We had laughed. Shared stories. Felt like a family. Then what?" I asked. "It didn't feel wrong at first," she admitted. That's the worst part. It felt easy. Like what I had built over years could be undone in moments. I told myself it was nothing, she continued. That it would stop. But it didn't. She shook her head. "No. Why?" I asked. She looked at me then. Really looked. "Because I was lonely," she said. I blinked. "That's your reason?" "No," she said quickly. "It's not an excuse, it's just part of it." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "You could have called me," I said. "You could have talked to me." "I know," she whispered. "But I didn't. Instead, you chose him." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't choose him over you," she said. I let out a bitter laugh. "You literally did," she flinched. I didn't think of it that way, she said. That's the problem, I replied. You didn't think. Silence. Then softer, I hate myself for it. I studied her, trying to decide if I believed her. And the truth was, I did. But belief didn't erase the damage. Do you love him? I asked suddenly. Her head snapped up. What? Do you love him? The room felt smaller again. She hesitated. Then, no. I searched her face. You're sure? Yes. A pause. It wasn't love, she added quietly. It was something else, something stupid. I nodded slowly. That makes it worse, I said. Because it meant everything she risked? Our relationship, my marriage, wasn't even for something real. I know, she whispered. Silence settled between us again. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. I'll stay away, she said. I frowned slightly. From you, she clarified. From the family. If that's what you need. That hit something deep. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about punishment, it was about loss. Not just losing a husband, but potentially losing a sister too. I don't want to erase you, I said slowly. Her eyes filled. But I don't know how to have you in my life right now either. She nodded. I understand. And for once, I believed her completely. I need time, I said. You can have all the time you want. Another silence. Then she stood. I'm really sorry, Emily. I didn't say I forgive you. Because I didn't. Not yet. But I also didn't say I hate you. Because that wasn't true either. I know, I said. And that was all I could give her. She left quietly. And just like that, another chapter closed. Months passed. Not quickly, not easily, but steadily, I went to therapy. Something I never thought I'd need. But sitting in that quiet room, talking to someone who wasn't part of the mess, helped. It's not just betrayal, my therapist said once. It's a loss of identity, of trust, of narrative. That word stuck with me. Narrative. The story I told myself about my life had been shattered, and now I had to write a new one. Daniel and I finalized the divorce quietly. No dramatic fights. No courtroom scenes. Just signatures. And silence. The last time I saw him, he said, I'll regret this for the rest of my life. I believed him. But regret wasn't something I could build a future on. As for Rachel, we didn't talk for a long time. Then one day, she sent a message. I saw something today that reminded me of you. I hope you're okay. Simple, careful. I didn't reply right away. But this time, I didn't ignore it either, because healing isn't about forgetting, it's about deciding what to carry forward. A year later, I hosted Thanksgiving again. Same house, same table, but different. Simpler, quieter, more honest. My parents were there. Jake was there. And after a long pause, Rachel came too. It wasn't easy. There were no hugs at the door, no pretending everything was fine. But she sat down, across from me, and for the first time, we looked at each other without pretending. Hi, she said. Hi. That was it. But it was enough. Because some relationships don't go back to what they were. They become something else, something fragile, something rebuilt, something real. As we sat around the table, no perfection, no illusion, I realized something. That Thanksgiving, the one that broke everything, it didn't destroy my life. It revealed it, stripped it down to truth, and gave me the chance to rebuild it honestly, and maybe that was something to be thankful for.